I would have fired his ass. Welcome to my second annual Drunk Memorial Day Marathon. I think I made a joke last year that, it's my first annual marathon. Because a lot of times you'll see, the first annual film festival, and you're always kind of hexing yourself if you put the word annual in front of the first ever time you're doing something. You should always wait until the second time you're doing something and say, this is our second annual marathon. But I do think I jinxed myself last year, but hey, I made it to a second marathon. So, I love doing drunk marathons because I don't think, I watch a lot of reaction channels. I've never seen any other reaction channel do a marathon. So I think I'm the only reaction channel out there doing marathons, which kind of makes me special. All right, well, we'll grab a bunch of shit for this marathon over the next 24 hours. First of all, bonus episodes of all your favorite reactions. Whatever you're a fan of, whatever you're actually on this channel to watch, if there's one particular show you like me doing reactions of, there will be episodes, even at least one extra episode today, beyond what you normally get per week. So that's happening. Some shows will be more than one episode. Also, I'm going to be premiering some pilots. I'm doing 3 or 4 pilot episodes of shows that I'm trying out, and whichever of these shows gets the most views and thumbs up or thumbs down or comments and stuff, I'll continue on the series for those shows. And the ones that don't, we'll just pretend I never watched them. And of course, I'll be doing some movie reactions and all kinds of good stuff. So first up, this hour, I'm answering questions I ask over on Patreons about filmmaking. So if you're interested in hearing me talk about filmmaking, I'll talk about that for a couple of minutes. That'll be this hour's video. Next hour, we're going to be doing some Hunter x Hunters. So for the next 2 hours, there's going to be some bonus Hunter x Hunter reactions. And then beyond that, you just have to stick around and see. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'll actually be able to put up a list of all my marathons and say, this is what's happening every hour for this marathon. I would love to be able to do that. But, I'm not up to 1,000 yet. So if you haven't subscribed yet, just hit the subscribe button, and then we can get to 1,000, and then I'll be able to start doing lists. Until then, we'll just have to let the mystery be. All right, let's get to these filmmaking questions. First up, question from Samantha. Can you sometimes film outside without a permit if it's in a public place like a park? Do you always have to get permission from the city first? Well, first of all, can you? Yes. As a guerrilla filmmaker, I can film anywhere I want to. Should you? No, you shouldn't. Especially because you're going to be they're not going to arrest you. They're probably not going to give you a ticket unless they're dicks or something, But they can run you off, especially on public parks. One time I was filming in a mountain public park. It was up on a mountain in some woods and stuff. I was filming there. And what you do is you do the story. You say you're student filmmakers. You're at a college and you're taking filmmaking classes and you're a student filmmaker. They tend to be more forgiving on a student filmmaker trying to film something for a grade than if you're a commercial filmmaker just trying to make some money, right? So I was a commercial filmmaker trying to make some money, but I was pretending to be a student filmmaker. But this park cop came by. What do they call them? Park patrol, whatever. Park ranger. He comes driving by and he stops, and we tell him what we're doing, and he says, "Well, I guess I'll let you continue." And he stood there and watched us continue, so we had to hurry up and finish, right? He says, "But just so you know, I could run you off if I wanted to." I said, "Yeah, well, thank you for not doing it." And then he said that like 2 more fucking times. I could run you off if I wanted to. Yeah, he said it 2 more times just so he could swing his dick around, make sure he slapped every one of us in the face with his dick, right? He said it once, which is obnoxious, but the other 2 times he said he's just being a dickhead. Like, damn. But getting the fucking permission is really hard, man. And there's all kinds of requirements, especially if you're shooting in L.A. or anywhere in California, you have to obey the rules because they're really strict. And one of the rules is, if you're filming in the neighborhood, you got to put a fucking piece of paper on everybody's door, letting them know that you're filming in the neighborhood. You have to give them fair warning and shit. There's all kinds of fucking rules. You have to follow the rules. In North Carolina, where I shoot, they don't know anything about filmmaking. Here, I don't want to get lost in the weeds, but there was a time when there was a lot of filming being done here by Hollywood and other places, big independent companies. because the taxes were good. But then the government took away the taxes, and now nobody wants to film anymore. They're filming down in Atlanta. So depending on, 10 years ago, it was more common. Now it's not so common. But really, I mean, they don't really know what that is. It's kind of a new thing. It's kind of exciting. So you can get away with more. So really, it depends on the state you live in is the biggest answer. So you should probably ask a filmmaker if you're intending to shoot. Now, if this is just out of curiosity, don't worry about it, right? But obviously, if you're thinking about shooting something of your own, definitely ask a filmmaker who's been doing it in your state a long time what they do. But if it's North Carolina, you can get away with it, unless you're talking about a city street. A city street, you better get a permit because you're out in the fucking public, and they're going to notice and somebody's going to call it in, or they'll be driving by, right? A park, don't worry about it, because we were shooting in woods. The whole time we were shooting in woods, it's fine. The one time we wanted to shoot in a parking lot with a bathroom where they drive by and could see us, that was a problem because they drove by and saw us. When we were doing it in the woods, like off the trails, nobody ever fucking noticed. We did it for like 3 weeks in a row. Nobody ever noticed us. So, it's a really big, depends on the circumstances situation, but it's so much trouble, and the chance of, if you ask for permission and denied, and then they catch you doing it, it's even worse. So it's easier to get forgiveness and permission, that kind of thing. So don't bother doing it, provisionally speaking, depending on what state you're in and where you're shooting. So I know it's kind of a weasel answer, but that's, it's just such a variable thing, right? All right, next question from Leon Ilion. How is your script writing process? Well, George R. R. Martin talks about it the best. Some writers are architects and some writers are gardeners. And the architects are the ones that have the outline and they write, they know everything's going to happen before they start writing. Examples of that are like Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, Piers Anthony, those kind of, I mentioned all science fiction fantasy writers, but, there's others, that they have an outline, a complete outline. They know exactly what they're doing before they start doing it. And examples of gardeners besides George R. R. Martin, Stephen King, shit like that. They start out, they have a character, they have a premise, they have an idea, maybe they have a chapter idea, maybe they even know what the ending is, and they just start writing. And they write because they want to find out what's going to happen next. That's what a gardener does. That's what I do. I write because I want to find out what's going to happen next. As I'm writing, I start seeing, okay, this is happening, that's happening. And then I'll get like 2/3 of the way into it, like, wait a minute. Now that I know what I want to do, would it be great if there was a gun in the drawer here in chapter 1, and then I go back and put the gun in the drawer? That's the rewriting process is where you make it look like you planned it all along. But you were just finding out shit with the characters, right? That's the kind of writer I am. I just find out the shit with the characters, for the most part. But to me, and I know that like the other way around, like the architects are probably like, damn, that's a crazy way to write. What if you don't like the ending? But for me, it'd be so boring to just plan it all out and have to, basically have your like, it's like playing a game that's on tracks where like the game doesn't give you any choices, and you basically, you're only going where the game wants you to go. Like, that doesn't seem as fun to me, right? Like, I would want the sandbox game where you can basically go anywhere you want to, So yeah, that's the biggest reason. Like, I write because I want to know what's going to happen next. All right, another question from Samantha. How do you determine what order to film the scenes in? I hear a lot of things are shot out of sequence. Why is it done that way? All right, well, the first question, how do you determine what order to film the scenes in? It's arbitrary to a certain extent. But I will say this. The number one thing you need to keep in mind is you schedule your outdoor scenes first, your indoor scenes later in the shooting schedule. And so that if there's foul weather that's going to interfere with your ability to shoot the scenes, then you would switch the outdoor scenes with the indoor scenes, and then hope for better weather. Like say it's a 10-day shoot, 4 days indoors, 6 days outdoors. So you start with your 6 days outdoors. What if it rains on day 3, really bad, and you can't have rain in your scene? So okay, you move one of those 4 indoor scenes to that day 3, on the day. Push everything else back. The next day it's still raining, so then you move another one of your indoor scenes in there. So now you've done 2 outdoor scenes and 2 indoor scenes, right? So then after that, you have fair weather the rest of the way. So then you do your remaining 4 outdoor scenes, and then you have the 2 days left that are indoors. So, but if you shoot all your indoor scenes first, and then you start shooting outdoors, and then it starts raining or snow or whatever the problem is, a high wind that interferes with sound, that's happened before too. You know, it's unbelievable the kind of shit that'll happen, right? Then you're fucked. Another thing to keep in mind about the weather, they really only know for sure, 100% for sure, what the weather is going to be for 72 hours in advance. Whatever day this is that you're watching this, look at your weather. Call it the weather app and look at your weather. 72 days from this moment, 72 hours from this moment right now, is only that's what they're sure the weather's going to be. You know, rain, thunderstorm, whatever. You know, even that can change. Like if there's a hurricane going around the Pacific, you're not sure where it's going to land. You know, whatever. That could possibly change at that point. But they only know for a fact what the weather's going to be for 72 hours. So then why do they have a 5-day forecast? And some days 7 days and 10 days. My weather app has a 10-day forecast. Anything beyond 3 days is an estimation based on the last 100 years of that day. That day, June 6th. For the last 100 years, what was the weather like on June 6th? Okay, here's the average over 100 years what that weather is like. Okay, that's going to get you close. And then, of course, they throw in the calculus, okay, what's the weather like right now? And then, June 6th is like 10 days away. You know, what's the weather like right now? Factor that in what it's been like what was the weather like 10 days before that June 6th in 1990, in 1980, you know what I'm saying? So you can see some parallels. They can get close. They can probably get within 20 degrees correct, within, maybe 50% of what the rate is, but they don't know for sure. They're guessing. It's a good guess. It's an educated guess, but it's still a guess. So don't plan your shoot based on a 10-day weather forecast because you're going to get fucked. They only know 3 days out. The reason why that is because of local news. They had a 3-day weather forecast because they knew for a fact what 3 days are going to be. But there's like 4 stations competing with each other on TV at the same time. So one of those newscast stations at one point in the past, probably the 80s or the 70s, they said, let's go to a 4-day weather forecast. We'll beat our competitors. People will start watching us because we can give them the weather for 4 days. And everybody else is just doing 3 days. And then the other stations had to match them. And it was an estimate, but they couldn't know for sure. They were just estimating. And then they went to fucking 5 days. Yeah, same thing. Anything past 3 days, ask anybody who studies weather, any meteorologist, anything past 3 days is bullshit. Educated bullshit, but it's bullshit. So keep that in mind. And just keep an eye on your fucking weather. So that's the first factor that goes into what order you determine scenes. The other factor is the actors who are in the scene. So obviously you don't want your actors sitting around for, like, say you bring in somebody from California, and you're shooting in North Carolina. Every day they're here, you're paying for a hotel. And every day you're here, you got to compensate them for the time whether they're shooting or not, in most cases. Like, if they're shooting for 3 days, and the first 2 days, you pay them because they're here to work, right? And then you shoot for 7 days without them, and then you want to shoot another day with them, they ain't going to sit around for 7 days waiting for your ass. Now, that's an extreme example, but I'm just saying, even 1 or 2 days can make them impatient. 1 day off is okay. Any more than 1 day off, and they can start getting impatient. So you're going to want to group all the scenes with that character together and shoot that person out. It's called shooting them out. You want to shoot the actor out, so then they can fuck off and go back to where they're going. The actors who live here, if an actor lives 2 blocks away from where you're shooting, you can do whatever you want with that motherfucker. They live here. So they can shoot on day 1, day 5, day 14, and day 20. It don't matter. Your priority is the people that are coming in from out of town. That's one factor. Another factor is locations. You want to shoot a location out. So if you're shooting in a person's house, you don't want to schedule that for day 1, day 10, day 15, and day 20. Because what if they have a family reunion between day 5 and day 15? And then the yard is completely fucking different. Somebody burned down the picnic table. There could be all kinds of things that could change, and then your continuity is fucked. So once you start shooting a location, you want to shoot that location out and never use it again, if at all possible. It doesn't, even if it's an outdoor location, something could change. A fucking tree could burn down, like lightning hit it, or some shit. You never know. You don't want to take any chances. Also, another thing you don't want to take any chances on, say you're shooting a location for 2 days. The first day you're shooting there, somebody like, damn, man, what the fuck's happening? What are these people doing here? And then they call Uncle Bob, who owns the place. And Uncle Bob lives 2 days away. So it takes him 2 days to get here and see what's happening. Well, if you're only shooting there for 2 days and he gets there on day 3 looking for you, you're gone and you're never coming back. But if you shot there for 1 day and then you come back the next week, he may be waiting there with his shotgun. You don't know. So, first thing, you want to shoot the actors out. The second thing is you want to shoot the location out. You want to get everything you can while you can for continuity's sake. And that also answers the other question: why is it done that way? You shoot out of order because you're trying to eliminate locations and actors. You're trying to get rid of them. And also, it's efficient. It's more efficient to shoot in one location all day. Hollywood shoots about 3 pages a day. Independent filmmakers should be able to shoot 6 to 10 pages a day. We're not bullshitting as much. So, I always aim for 10 pages a day, which is a lot. It's a lot to ask your actors to memorize. But I aim for 10 pages a day. Okay, so say you have grandmother's house, and you have a 4-page scene in grandmother's house early in the script. And then later in the script, you have another 4-page scene in grandmother's house. Well, if you're shooting in chronological order, you would shoot the 4 pages in grandma's house, and then you drive all the way across town to grandfather's house. And then you have like 4 pages of grandfather's house. So you shoot 4 pages in grandma's house, pack everything up, take all the lights down, take everything out, put it in your vehicles, get all the actors, put them in the vehicles, and then drive all the way across town. And for every mile you drive, it's probably going to take you a half hour because people are going to fucking stop. They're going to gas. And by the time you get to the location, it's going to take them forever to get there. Somebody's lost. Somebody's car breaks down. Somebody's hungry, whatever. Anytime you're traveling, it's a cluster. You lose 2 hours on travel. Easy. You lose another 2 hours on breaking shit down and then packing shit up and then unpacking it, right? So, say you're done at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at grandmother's house. You're not going to have everything packed up and ready to go until 2:30. So then it takes a half hour to drive to grandma's house. But really, add another half hour to that. So it's 3 o'clock before everybody gets to grandfather's house. So now we're at grandfather's house. It takes an hour and a half to unpack everything and set everything up. So now it's 4:30. So you finish shooting 1. 3.5 hours later, almost a quarter of a shooting day, you might be ready to go in a new location. You've lost a lot of time. So sometimes you can't help it. You only have 4 pages at this location. That's all you're ever doing there. And you want to get another location. And before the end of the day, you have no choice. You have to do this, right? But if you have 4 pages at grandmother's house, and then later on in the script, you have another 4 pages at grandmother's house, you're going to fucking shoot those other 4 pages so you don't have to move that day. So that when you're packing up for the day. You're done. That's why things are shot out of order. That and the other reasons I said. So it's just an efficient way that's been developed over 100 years of filmmaking. This is the efficient way to do it. You want to try to group things together, and once you start grouping things together, everything else starts falling into place. Okay, this makes sense. This is what we should do here. We got this location, this actor. If he gets his 1 more location, he's done shooting. So let's go and put that right next to this day. And then now that we've done that, this other actor only has 2 more locations, and these are two pages each. So let's put two locations that are each 2 pages each in the next day. And so that day falls into place. And then everything starts falling into place. It fits together like blocks at that point. You always have one actor who gets fucked over, but sometimes it can't be helped. There's no way. It's like Tetris. There's no way to satisfy everybody, All right, next question is from Kip. Is setting up the camera a pain? Also, how do you like the editing process? Well, for me, setting up the camera is really fucking easy. Because I say, hey, you, set that fucking camera up, goddammit. Because I'm the director, but I'm not the cinematographer, right? If you're really good at your job, and I try to hire people who are really good at their jobs, then setting it up is not very bad. The lighting can take a long time because they want to get it just right. To be like, boom, 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 adjust this a little bit here, put a filter in here, see what that looks like. Just a little bit more. And there's a guy... many guys I work with, they could spend it. It'd be like, hey man, we'll tell the cinematographer, do you mind if we take another 10 minutes because we need to run these lines one more time? He'd be like, you can take as long as you need. And he'll go over there and start adjusting the lighting again. Like they could literally light for 4 hours and they'd be happy. Like they're not impatient. Like, oh yeah, I can start adjusting some more shit. Throw some more filters on there. See what a little bit of natural light does. All this shit. Like the lighting is what is a pain in a good way. Because when they get the lighting right, everything looks really good, right? So the lighting is a pain in the fact that it can take forever, and I'll be sitting there as a director like, God damn, man, I wish you'd just hurry up. But I will never tell them to hurry up because I want it to look as good as it possibly can. And he'll be fucking with that shit forever, man. So yeah, as long as the person really knows what they're doing, it's not an issue whatsoever. Just hire really good people and then stay the fuck out of their way and let them do what they do. That's the biggest thing as a filmmaker. That's what you have to do. Stay the fuck out of their way. Don't be trying to micromanage something when you don't know anything about it. Like I know just enough to be dangerous, right? So that's the biggest thing. As far as the editing process, I love editing. I love editing almost as much as I love writing because think about it. Editing is another draft of the script. So you have 3 drafts of the script. You have what you write, what you shoot, and then what you edit. So what you write, that's a version of the script. Okay, when you're completely finished writing, that's a version. What you shoot is never going to be exactly what you wrote, for a variety of reasons. What you edit is never being exactly what you shot, for a variety of reasons, especially pacing-wise. You'll look at this shit, damn, man, okay, yeah, I suppose. I guess, right? So I love editing just because I just love, there's just something about it I just really love. And I'm not retired as a filmmaker, but I'm just not filmmaking right now because, like, when Dad, he had a long illness, and so I had to take a year away from filmmaking because of his illness. And I'd already set some things up with some investors who felt burned because, I returned their investment money and everything, but they had earmarked this money for this purpose, and then it didn't happen because I had to take this time away from Dad, and they didn't want to work with me anymore. After Dad was finally dead and everything, they didn't want to work with me anymore. And so I had spent 15 years building up this investor network, and some other things had happened before that. This wasn't just out of the blue. Some other things happened. I had a friend that was in trouble, and I had to take some time away from that. And so, but I was working with like $50,000 to do a horror movie, and then the same with Dad happened, and I had to step away, and that was just the last straw, and they just didn't want to work with me more. And I understand where they're coming from. I wish they'd give me another chance, but I understand why they don't. It's a lot of money. So they just didn't feel like they're reliable. They wanted to work with other filmmakers. That's what they've done. And I haven't had the willpower to try to build an investing network up from scratch again. Because it was just, it took me 15 years to get to that point. And then I had nothing left. I had to start from the beginning again. And, I was just like, let me try this YouTube thing for a while. And plus he'd left me in a lot of debt and everything. The dad's, I'm not blaming Dad. I'm just saying his situation left me in a lot of debt. And so I had to try to find some way to make a living immediately, so that, so my point is I'm not finished with filmmaking, but I don't know when I'm going to get back to filmmaking because I would have to get some investment money at some point. That seems like a long way away right now. So I miss the editing. I miss filmmaking. And one of the things I miss the most about filmmaking is editing. And so editing these YouTube videos has kind of scratched that itch a little bit for me. It makes me miss it less, is what I'm saying. And final question from Leon again. How do you deal with difficult actors? And that's an interesting question because I think actors get a bad rap. I think there's a stereotype out there. Writers too, by the way. And of course, I'm going to sound biased because I'm a writer. But there's a stereotype out there about the writer who's like, oh, not my golden words. No, how dare you change a word of my script? How dare you? I was never that kind of a writer because I'm also a director. As a director, I know sometimes there are realities that what you write is not what you can shoot. I think every writer should direct one project, one short film. Even if it's a 1-page short film, it's a 5-page short film, a 1-day shoot short film, every writer should direct one short film and they would become a much better writer after that. I'm talking about screenwriters, obviously. Novelists are a whole different thing. Every writer should direct once and they would understand and they would never bitch about people changing their shit again. But having said that, there's an overreaction to these kind of writers. And so everybody, like the producers and directors and people who have never written, they hate writers. They don't want writers to be on the set because they don't want to hear the bitching about shit being changed. And so there's this whole stereotype about writers that's super negative, which I don't think is entirely true. And there's also that stereotype about actors. The thing is, actors care about what they're putting on screen. Because the thing is, the actors in the Star Wars prequel movies, we know they're good actors. Some of them have won massive awards since then. Natalie Portman is a great actress. Samuel L. Jackson is a good actor. Ewan McGregor is a great fucking actor. I even think Hayden Christensen's a great actor. I've seen him in other shit, man. He's a good actor. But they looked the way they did in those movies because they were directed to look that way. They were directed to say it this way. say it that way. And then in editing, they were edited to look that way. So now people think Hayden Christensen sucks as an actor because of what he was told to do. He was told to do this, and then in editing, he was made to look that way that he looked. So his career has been jeopardized because of what the director and the editor did to him. So think about that. If your livelihood relied on these other people, wouldn't you every now and then put your foot down and say, what the fuck, man? We can't do this. Wouldn't you? I mean, your livelihood, if you come across a certain way, like you suck or something, that's going to be held against you. People are going to say, damn, you suck. When it could be the director, it could be the editor. So I would have a problem with that. And another thing about actors that a lot of people don't realize, and I think a lot of writers don't realize this either. A writer, say I'm writing a script that has 40 characters in it. I can think, I put all these, I'm thinking about all 40 of the characters. I'm thinking about the plot, think about everything fits together, and what matters to the plot. I'm thinking about everybody at once. The actor is only thinking about their one character. They're not thinking about 40 characters. They're not thinking about the overall story. They're thinking about their one character. They're going to see shit that I don't see as a writer. I wrote the shit and I didn't see it. I've had, and that's why I love collaboration. I've had an actor come to me and say, wait a minute. You know, she gave away this necklace. Here, when she said back here, this is what the necklace meant to her. And she says later, this is what her mom who gave her this necklace means to her. You know? Why would she give away this necklace when this is what the necklace means to her and this is what the person who gave it to her means to her? Why would she give that necklace away? That doesn't make any sense. I'm like, fuck, you're right. You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about she has to lose this necklace because it has like a medical alert button on it or some shit, right? Or it has it's metallic and, you know, it sets off of metal detector or some shit. There was a plot reason why she couldn't have the necklace in a certain scene, right? I said, fuck, I didn't even think about that. So then I had to think of another way to get this necklace off of her without her just giving it away. You know, it had to be like she had to not notice it somehow, right? So that's the kind of thing that an actor will notice that a writer doesn't notice, because the writers put all this shit together, but I may have written the scene about the mother who gave it to her first. That could be the first scene I wrote. And later I went back and wrote the scene about what the necklace meant to her. And then later I was like, fuck, she can't walk through this metal detector with the necklace on. So I'm like, okay, I'll just have her give it up. 3 things written probably 30 days apart, not thinking about it. And then I'm thinking about 40 other characters, so I'm not thinking about each particular character and what everything means to them, right? The actor will only think about their character. The actor is going to see shit that a writer doesn't, that a director doesn't. That's why you should listen to your actors. If you don't, you're going to suffer. The nerds in the audience will fucking notice this shit, and they'll call you a stupid writer. Actors can save your ass if you listen to them. So that's the number one thing. Now, having said all this, there was one time I had an actor who was really, he refused to do what I wanted. Just absolutely refused. There's a particular scene, and it was a dream scene. This is what made it really bad. It was a dream sequence. So it's not even like the character was acting out of character. But he's supposed to grab the arm of this girl who was having the dream in a scary way and just be menacing. And he says, I just don't feel like my character would grab her. And just refused to do it. Absolutely refused to do it. First day he'd ever worked with me. He was a writer and director himself. I guess that's why he had the confidence to say no. And I literally was just about to shut down production and just leave. That's how fucking pissed off I was. I was so angry that he just refused to do what I wanted. And I was close. And nowadays I would take it in stride. You know, and the other thing I was thinking about doing is just firing him on the spot, you know, and just be like, well, you know, but the problem was we had this location for this one day, and we had to get this shot. We had to, you know, for everything to work. We're shooting a pilot for investors and shit. We had to get the shot. There was no way to really fire him. If there was another actor I thought on set who could do it, who could just step in and do it, like sometimes I'll use an actor for like a boom mic operator, or there'll be an actor who's like a assistant DP or some shit. Somebody we could pull out the crew and just stick in front of the camera, I would have fired his ass. And we're talking about this is something, we had stopped production for an hour to talk about this, and he still refused to do it. There was no way to talk him into it. And finally, like, you know, the guy who brought him on, who suggested him to me, he's like, hey, use this actor. I said, okay. He was the DP. He took him aside and had a conversation with him, finally convincing him to fucking do what I wanted. You know, but that really pissed me off. But like nowadays, what I was going to say before was, nowadays I take it more in stride because some of that was about my ego. And shooting should never be about your ego. Yeah, how dare you say no to me? No, I do believe I still believe how dare he say no to me. But part of it was ego driven. If I could have taken if I was an older person, could have taken my ego out of it and just looked at it objectively, maybe I could have come up with another solution. But I was blinded by my ego and my emotions, and so no matter how unreasonable another person can be, if you get emotional about it, you're not going to make the situation better. You're going to make it worse. You have to be in control of yourself. And I spent a lifetime trying to control myself because of my temper issues. So you just have to. But yeah, so that was a rare exception. Most times I don't think actors are being difficult. I think you should hear them out. And sometimes they're wrong in what they're saying. Like, I just don't feel like my character would do this. And, you talk to him about it, you think about it, you listen to him, you think about it. And then you may be like, well, I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree. And most of the time what I'll do is I'll say, okay, we'll do a take your way if you give me a take my way. And then I'll get in the editing room and I'll see what's up. Now, they can assume it's like, well, you're just going to use your take, motherfucker. And probably I will, but there has been at least one time I can remember where I said this fully intending to use what I wanted. I got in the editing room, I was like, motherfucker, they were right. Their take was better. Because sometimes you have to see it to believe it. Them telling you, hey, this would be better. You don't believe it, but then they show it to you. That's why you always should give them a chance to show it to you, depending on the circumstances. Not possible in this scenario I was talking about before, but But yeah, if you have any other filmmaking questions, drop a comment. This is just for the patrons. I didn't really offer. Again, if I had a community post, I could have asked in a community post. Anybody could ask me questions, and I'll do that once I get to 1,000. But if you have any questions, if I get a bunch of questions, I'll do a second filmmaking video. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the marathon. It's gonna be a lot of fun.